Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Forced Diet Podcast, episode 41. We got an exciting episode tonight, the Solitary Clone Bad Batch, episode 3. A ton of great stuff to unpack. You got Crosshair, you got Cody, an intense battle on Desix, and a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. So I'm your host, Obi Sean, joined as always by my fantastic co-host, Jedi John. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I am grand. Excited for tonight?
Oh, very excited. It's going to be a good show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with this episode, and it was the episode was great. I can't wait to dive in.
It was fantastic, and you think it's just a single episode? There's not a lot to talk about, but they managed to pack so much stuff into these episodes that I'm surprised at what they can cram into a 25-minute episode. So I think we're just going to dive right in. The overview, right? We get Crosshair back. He's, we asked last week, where is he? Or, how did he get back? Is he safe, right?
The Vader, is he safe?
Exactly.
Where is Crosshair?
So we get Crosshair back.
He could have died on that platform. We would have never known.
I want to know how he survived for 32 days in the middle of the ocean.
What are those? ERCs? No, EMCs? Yeah, EMKs? What is it?
MREs.
MREs,
Meals,
thank you.
Meals ready to eat.
I was like, emergency meal kit, emergency meal care. I don't even, yeah.
You're so close.
MRCs. So I was never in the military, thank God, because it'd be bad.
My uncle was in the Army, so he actually gave me some of his MREs when I was a kid. And for what they are, they're not actually that bad, quite frankly. So, but we get Crosshair back. We get Cody, back, which was the big reveal, one of the big reveals during the Bad Batch panel at Celebration. So that was excellent.
I remember when the crowd just went nuts when they saw him.
Yes.
It was immediately.
No, we didn't even see him. We just heard Crosshair say Commander Cody, and everyone lost their mind. Because I don't remember seeing him. Because when I saw him in this episode, I was just glad that he still had his Phase 2 armor, but he had just been stormtroopered white.
I feel like we got a quick glimpse of him, maybe, but maybe not. But either way, when you heard it in the auditorium, just pandemonium. Pandemonium.
So yeah, and then we get the battle on Desix, or siege, not siege. Yeah, battle of Desix. And then you get the kind of the key message after everything, right? And so a lot to unpack. We're going to talk about Rampart tonight, and his interaction with Crosshair. Obviously talk about the mission, because that is the crux of the episode. Talk about Cody, and then focus a little bit on that title that we got, the Solitary Clone, and what does that mean, both in regards to Crosshair as well as all of the other clones that are currently in fighting for the Empire. So, and then we'll go over the IMDb ratings, kind of like we did last week, see if we find any good user reviews. Although, given how good the episode was, I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of negatives.
The one we won't see.
Omega's in it.
Omega's not in it, so won't see that one.
She's credited. Michelle Ang is credited on this episode.
Really?
For some
that
reason.
Is interesting. That's interesting to me, because I did not foresee that happening, because didn't see her.
At least that's what IMDb has. So
that might just be because it's a main character of the show.
Yeah. So let's dive in. Let's talk the kind of opening scene beyond Governor Groton being kidnapped or taken hostage, right? So you get that Imperial landing craft to try and take over control of Desix. Tawny Ames is the acting governor, right, and has been since the Clone Wars and even beyond now into the Imperial reign. And so they've got a bunch of battle droids and take him hostage. So let's kick to Crosshair, Rampart, that stuff. So,
well, love Rampart just calling him into his office. Hey, what's up? You're cleared for duty. I've got a mission for you, based on your previous performance, basically. Um, Left 4 Dead, we found out 32 rotations, right? Is that what he said? 32?
32 rotations.
Now, I don't know how long a day is on Camino, so it could be short.
I think it's assumed that it's a standard day. So it would be, I think that's meant to be assumed that. So let's assume it's been a month, which makes me wonder how long he was in recovery for. But yeah, 32 days, 32 rotations to get Crosshair off that platform.
Yeah, I know. Last episode we talked about how far we time jumped. I mean, if he was there for 32 rotations, whatever that means, right? It, maybe a couple years we've advanced then. I mean, I just can't imagine it being more than that. I mean, because he just got cleared for active duty again. So you're talking about, I mean, rehab and everything else for a year and a half for him. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. So maybe 2 years advancement. I don't know. Omega's definitely bigger. So I think we're landing in that couple year time gap. Anyway, but yeah, cleared for battle again. He's like, who's my squad? And he's like, oh, we're not ready for that yet. You're not gonna take
that was funny the way he kind of jabs him there. That yeah, you're not ready for that again.
Yeah, we're not moving that way yet. So let's do this. And he gets assigned to Cody. And when he meets up with him, Cody immediately says, "Hey, I picked you. I handpicked you." So, interesting start to the episode. Rampart. I was actually surprised we didn't get in this episode the questions about Clone Force 99. Like, I'm surprised we didn't get any more questions about his time outside Topoka City, outside of you were on that platform for a long time.
Yeah, and the way he questions him about why he's coming back, right? He's like, you were left for dead and you came back to fight for us. Why? And I feel like Crosshair is almost insulted by the question because he says, I'm a soldier for the Empire and this is what I'm supposed to do. And both in this moment and later at the end of the episode, it is very clear what Rampart thinks of the clones, right? And it is anything but positive,
It's not positive, yeah.
No, and he as obviously they transition from clones to enlisted personnel, you get the two clones talking in the mess hall before Crosshair gets called up, talking about a defense bill coming back up and them hoping it does not get renewed. And I don't know if that's because it would then delist all of the clones, right? I doubt we'll get any more information on that. But
from what I gathered from it, it's almost like it's the draft. It's like not a draft, but I guess they're allowed to enlist whoever they want.
Conscription. That would be conscription.
Yeah, it's conscription. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, it's interesting too because, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about this later in the parallels between this episode and the Clone Wars episode that there's some references to, is in that specific episode of the Clone Wars, they were voting on deregulating the banks so that they could take out a loan to pay for the military. So to pay for a boost in clones. And so it's interesting that in this episode, they're talking about something similar, right? Mm-hmm. But that, they don't want it to happen, right? They don't want it to pass. So, but yeah, we get Crosshair and Cody outside of or in front of the Battle Memorial, which was another cool callback to the Clone Wars cartoon. And as I said in the opening,
like the wall of fallen soldiers or wall of fallen names. What
it's the first battle. It's the first battle memorial is what it's called, and it's for the Battle of Geonosis.
Yep.
So it would be similar to other war memorials that were
like the Vietnam Memorial for us and everything else. Yeah,
exactly. And so as I said in the intro, seeing Cody in his phase 2 armor, I'm really glad that he managed to keep it, because
Looked great.
it looks fantastic. And as a,
Color
just,
scheme changed, and that's okay.
and it's super clean. Like it's a really clean look. And as a collector, right? Just jumping to toys really quick before we jump into the actual mission. If they come out with a Black Series figure, all white, phase 2 Cody, it's going to look good. And I hope they do the same thing in Lego, but it'll look kind of bland then. So I imagine the Black Series figures would look way better with that. So,
I'd be more than happy to add him to my collection if it was another Cody.
or eight of him, right? Just like you did with your
Well,
Rexes.
there's only like 3 Rexes left. It's okay.
Oh,
But yeah, but yeah. It'd be good. It'd be a good figure though. I mean, I do love my Cody figures I already have, but if we could get one with the gray in it, like mixed in, it'd be excellent.
it'll look clean. So jumping to the mission, right? They're Cody pulls Crosshair. They're going in under the guise of a diplomatic mission, a diplomatic envoy, which
I'm
is in.
surprised they thought this would work. I don't know who drew up this plan, but I'm like, guys, you guys just went there with a governor and a squad of soldiers. They know the next one's not going to be any nicer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The Yeah, it's almost like people think, traveling under the guise of a diplomatic mission to a planet, yeah, that makes you non-suspicious. Princess Leia call.
When you're already at war, it's just there's no more diplomatic missions. You're done.
Right. So things don't go well. They get shot down, and the battle itself, I loved the way that the camera. It almost felt like a mouse in a maze, right? The way that they kept doing the camera down shot as they progressed through the various levels of this compound or what have you.
I mean, might as well have been a castle with the winding staircases. So
yes, but the shot that Crosshair makes on that tank was so awesome, and the reason why is because he is not flinching whatsoever as the droids are shooting the tank at him, right? He knows that based on where the barrel is aimed, that it's going to miss him, and he is not flinching an inch. And it's such a BA moment, right, for Crosshair.
it's so satisfying watching him fight there. Not just because of the non-flinches, right? But we get to see Crosshair doing what Crosshair was built for. And that's him going out there and being the sniper. He got to snipe every droid that was on the top of that castle. He got to get after the tank. He went after everything. And then I know I'm skipping forward a little bit, but using his reflector pucks to get the final just ridiculous. Like, the dude knows how to shoot, which is what he was built for. We've only seen it maybe 2 other times where we really got to see him start sniping, and it was just amazing to watch him go to work. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah, outside of the training exercise in episode 1, and maybe the initial opening scene with
that's what I was thinking.
Caleb and them. Yeah, you don't get Crosshair as Crosshair, at least with multiple targets. And so we get some droidicas, we get assassin droids. It's a perfect callback to the old Clone Wars battles from the original show.
Hearing that droidica rumble without even seeing them, you're like, oh, they've got them still.
They're just as deadly, right? And the way that they team up to stick the battle droid, and then Crosshair pops him, and then he drops into the droidica ray shield.
They found a new way to kill a droid.
It's awesome. It's so good.
We've killed 1,000 droids, but let's try this. Okay. That's like your best friend sticking you in Halo, standing next to you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, buddy."
Sticky grenades for the win.
Mm,
It's yeah, that the assault on the compound is its peak Star Wars animation, right? It's
it's peak Clone
fun to
Wars.
watch. It's yeah, peak Clone Wars, exactly. And it's exciting to watch, which not to say the first two episodes weren't fun to watch, but this it was
It's
one
a
of
full
those
on
where it was just
siege.
nonstop. Yes.
Yeah,
And fighting up the stairs, reflector pucks. I I don't know. I mean, at first I thought, how many of these does he have, and or is he like grabbing them as he goes? But it's clear that he leaves them behind. So I don't know if he just has an endless supply of these reflective pucks. But what is that surface made out of that it can it can both be mirrored and then not break when you shoot a blaster bolt into it? It's
I
unobtainium,
mean,
isn't it?
it must
It's
be
unobtainium. Um,
Beskar. They're all Beskar steel.
there you go. That makes total sense. I didn't think about that. You're smart.
I don't know about the mirrored like surface, but I mean,
You polish it enough, it'll
Beskar.
be anything can become reflective. Uh, so he makes that last shot. Cody gets, pegged in the arm, and then we get the interaction between Tawny and Cody and Crosshair. Actually, before I say that, it was interesting too, the transition. And we'll talk about it in a little bit when we talk about Cody. But so you get the interaction between Groton and Ames and Cody and Crosshair, and the callback, like I said earlier, to the Clone Wars, where she references Mina Bonteri, and says, for those who aren't familiar with the Clone Wars cartoon, this is in
Go
season
back and
3,
watch
episode
it.
10. Yeah, yeah, please do, because it's excellent. But as I said a couple minutes ago, the main story revolves around the Senate wanting to deregulate the banks so they can fund more clones and take the war back to the separatists. And Padme certainly doesn't want that, right? So, but it's illegal to negotiate with separatists, and so she takes Ahsoka, and they go undercover to Raxus to speak with Mina to try and get her to bring something to the separatist Senate, basically, because the Confederacy had their own setup, just like the Republic did. And so they put forth this draft legislation to open peace talks. All at the same time, the banking clan, the Trade Federation, and the Techno Union are all trying to stop the vote because they make money off of the war. So war profiteering at its finest. They work with Dooku to formulate an attack on Coruscant that will then push forward this legislation. So that's when Tawny talks about how she worked with Mina in the past to put forth a chance at peace when Cody's talking about peace that the Empire wants to bring. That's what she's referring to for those who don't understand the reference. But Cody gets her to lay down her pistol, her blaster, and then Groton immediately calls for her execution. So, and you get that dichotomy between Cody and Crosshair, and well, Crosshair follows orders, and that's really all you have to say about that.
We've heard it a few times.
And it's funny too, because Cody even said it at the beginning, right, when they met outside the War Memorial, and the way that he questioned when Crosshair said that the regs who've gone AWOL are traitors just like the Jedi, and the way that Cody looks at him, it's as if he's already thought about doing that, right? And he begrudgingly says, "Good soldiers follow orders," and Crosshair's like, "Do you really believe that?" And so it's clear in that moment that Cody was not about to make that decision because of what he had promised her during the
Yeah.
discussion.
And I know we're going to talk about him once we get in the next piece too. But watching Cody in that scene with Groton, and he peacefully negotiates a release of a prisoner with the promise of peace or like peaceful negotiation. He at that point just realizes that peace is not good enough for the Empire, for the side he's on, right? The entire reason the Republic was fighting was for peace. His whole career under the Republic was under the guise of we are looking for peace, and the Separatists are bringing war, so we have to fight against them in order to maintain peace. Now, it is a Separatist. I mean, very clearly with droids and all, and he gets to a point where we can do this peacefully, and it gets denied immediately by the like the Empire governor. So it is that's the break, like the true breaking point. Obviously, Cody was thinking about other things already, but that, and then we're gonna get into it in a second. But him getting on the ship to leave the planet, he sees the replacements. So TK units were getting unloaded. It wasn't clone troopers. It was TK units. So
Yeah, the recognition that his belief or his reason for fighting is actually not, it's a facade, right? It's a mirage. It really hits him in that moment, and it humanizes him. It shows that he cares, right? Because the last time we see him, he's trying to kill Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, right? Because he's following Order 66. And even in that moment, he believes he's doing the right. Well, I don't know if he believes it actually or not, or if he's just triggered, right? But you can tell that at this point in the timeline, he's beyond kind of the brainwashed mentality of things. And he's thinking for himself, and he's rationalizing things for himself. And it troubles him how all of that goes down. And it does a lot to humanize the clones, which the cartoons have done well before. And this is just another example of that situation, and hit the difference between him and Crosshair, at least at this point. So
yeah, no, I think the biggest thing there is just there's a couple things. I'm gonna ask one question, and this is a question that hasn't been asked a lot that I know of. But if the Empire could just go on and say execute Order 66, right, and get them completely brainwashed, they're gonna follow the order no matter what, right? Can't they launch another order? Or if it's Order 66 again, like it can't be kill all Jedi, right? So I guess you can't launch the same order again. But isn't there another order to help with compliance? Because at this point they're losing compliance, and you would think they would have a built-in something to get back to compliance. But
well, so the interesting thing about that is their allegiance was to the Republic, right? They were built for the Republic. They were to fight for the Republic. And that was made clear during, I think, Obi-Wan's visit to Kamino initially, and Lama Su saying, they'll do their, well, that was Django saying they'll do their jobs, but effectively they're made for the Republic, and they are to take orders from the Republic.
without question.
Correct. And so now the Republic doesn't exist anymore. So their actual orders no longer apply. Order 66 was given before the Empire was ever set up. So technically
by the Republic.
Correct.
The leader of the Republic, yeah.
Bingo. And so I think at this point they're
is that the loophole?
Yeah, I think that's where you can rationalize your way out of it. Plus, I think the original programming was kind of like a one-time use chip, basically, in that here's the program, because otherwise they have to hook them back up and reprogram them, unless there was some sort of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connectivity type thing, right? In
I'm
the
sure
Star
they
Wars
had that
universe,
technology in the Star Wars universe. Come on now.
like
But yeah, no, I
pause.
can agree with that. That like you can explain it away with the fact that it's no longer the Republic they're fighting for, and they know it, so they don't like they're not conscripted to follow that order. So yeah,
Yeah,
I can believe that.
it's just that they have nowhere to go, right? Their purpose is no more, effectively.
Right.
They have one purpose, which is to fight their soldiers. Their initial purpose was to fight for the Republic, which doesn't exist anymore. So now they're like, well, who do we fight for? Are we still fighting for the right thing? And this is what Cody says. He says it at the end. What makes us different from from the battle droids? And he says that they can make their own decisions and their own choices, but they also have to live with them too. And it's that realization that they're no longer kind of subservient technically to anyone, to any faction, to any government, to anybody, and that they are of their own free will to a point, right? They can defect. I don't know what the process for quitting the military is as a clone trooper.
Yeah, you go AWOL. That's it.
Yeah,
Like you go
right,
AWOL. We've
right.
seen them. We've seen the guys.
But and that takes us to Rampart at the end, and I alluded to it at the beginning, was when he's reassigning Crosshair to his next mission. He assigns him to a new clone trooper or clone commander, and Crosshair asks where Cody is, and Rampart kind of sneers at him in like disgust, derision, like, who's Cody? As if to say he's not worthy of a name. He's just a number. He's just a clone. And that's how the Empire views them now, is and maybe to some extent the Republic did too, but you saw a number of times the Jedi generals, specifically it was Plo Koon, who said that, we're just a number, sir. And he's like, not to me, you're not. And there was actual care for them when they fought for the Republic. And now they are just being cast aside as cannon fodder, as non-human, as less than human.
I think it just goes back to anybody that fights with somebody. You're no longer just a number. You are a person, and you are my brother or friend as you're fighting alongside me. So, we saw that quite a bit in the Clone Wars between all the Jedi generals. Like, they treated their clone comrades as not well as equals as much as they could be equals to a Jedi, but they did treat them with respect and they understood loss. So, but yeah, Rampart, yeah, no, doesn't care.
No.
No clone will ever be good enough. And I feel like Crosshair should be getting that point drilled into his head now that no clone will ever be good enough for him. But he still goes back to the Empire. So.
And when Rampart says that he's gone AWOL, excuse me, you can almost see that he really doesn't even care. He almost hopes that, I feel like he's almost hoping that that's what happens so that they can backfill with whether they're enlisted folk or conscripted troopers.
It's probably an easier way out for him personally.
Yeah.
That way he can just prove that like he can that's like one more fact on his checklist, like look at these guys quitting. They're a bunch of quitters.
They can't be relied on. They're a bunch of quitters. They can't be relied on.
Bunch of quitters.
Can't be trusted to
right
hang in there. And I do feel like Crosshair, again, just before he puts on his helmet, he kind of, maybe it's starting to register. And before we talk about the title and how it kind of applies, the music in this episode, as it relates to Crosshair, right? I mean, the music in general is excellent, right? The Kiner brothers do an amazing job.
Yeah, Kevin, right? Kevin Kleiner?
So it's the Kiner brothers. So it's Kevin and I can't remember.
Yeah, but Kevin, I think, is responsible for this episode.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you're probably right. Um, but it really
So
gave
good.
an Andor feel. Did you get like a Narkina 5 Andor feel to it?
A
Like
little
that
bit. The
synthetic, or not synthetic,
the
but like
ending,
synthesized.
the ending especially, you
Yes.
felt it.
Yes. Almost like he was in a prison, right? He's imprisoned in himself, but he's obviously imprisoned too in the role that he's currently serving, and there's no clear way out for him, and there probably is no clear way out for any of the other clones, and that leads into the title of the solitary clone. And so,
It's so hard to watch the crosshair scenes this episode, as far as realistically, he is in a prison cell with a single light shining on him. Like, he truly is alone. And for him and all the other clones, they're built to be in a unit wherever they're at. You know, they're built to be brothers. They're built to be together. That's what makes them strong. Otherwise, away from each other, they're not as strong. So he's already away from his, I'll call them family. So Clone Force 99. He's away from his team. And then he goes into a lunchroom, and he's not respected by any of the regs, obviously, because guess what? He's not a reg. And then he's also not respected by any TK unit, which we don't really see in that specific scene, but you get up to Rampart's office, and it's very apparent that no clone is ever going to be respected by him, nor anyone he brings in. So that'll make sense. But then he's requested on the team. It's Cody. Awesome. Worked with you before. I know what you can do. You're going to help me. The rest of the episode, granted, the clones are going through the castle, seizing the planet, making sure that the governor gets released, all that good stuff, right? Cody and his team getting replaced at the end. And when you see the doors drop and it's TK's walking off, and they look right back at Cody as he's getting on his ship, and he's like, This is effed. That's it. And this is effed. Like, you know, this is not what I this is not what I pictured my time, like my effort yielding this result. Like, this is not what I pictured. So, and I think, like I said earlier, it was a tipping point for him to see the governor just immediately, I did this peacefully, and you just ordered me to kill them and hang them in the street so everyone can see. Like, it's not about peace. Nothing's about peace anymore. So you see all the clones getting split up. You see the clones. I love to say it's all about Crosshair, but really it's Cody, and it's also all the other clones that are getting split up right now. So they're realizing, the clones are realizing, like you said, like, whatever it was about Order 66 or anything else, they are realizing that that's not necessarily the way to go.
mm-hmm.
And we all make our own choices, and we are regretting some of those choices now, but we also couldn't control ourselves when things happened. So that's also frustrating, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine having a body that you couldn't control. Like,
yeah,
like you see what you're doing. You see what you're doing, but you can't control your actions. Like, you have to do it.
Well, and
so that's different too.
It would be interesting as far as the Order is concerned, right? I don't think that they would have had any sort of inkling into what they were doing as far as not being able to control themselves, so to speak, right? Their brain, I don't think, would have even processed that. But to your point about Cody and him realizing that what he's been tasked to do is no longer what he's actually doing. This was something I was going to talk about earlier. Them going through the city and the child and mother pop out of the door, and they get immediately frightened, and he goes, "It's okay, we're here to help," right? And you can see that the mother looks at him angrily because she knows that's not the case, but he doesn't recognize that, and or he thinks that's why he's there, is to help, because exactly, and because he's been taught and trained to fight separatists. And so I think that's one of the only reasons that he doesn't maybe question it as much in the initial sort of phase, is because they are former separatists. I mean, technically, I guess they're still in a way separatists, and they're not conforming to the new imperial regime, and so he doesn't see them any differently than he would have when they were fighting the Republic, even though it's two
And that
different
and that's
government structures.
and that still goes back to the title.
Mm-hmm.
He's the
That he's
one
Yep.
that still
He's
believe. Well, that's his mission is still that, to help the oppressed, to help the Republic slash
Mhm.
at this point the Empire. Like, you're supposed to be helping them because they're the good guys. Except
Except they aren't.
except once you get to the tower and you realize, oh, I just negotiated your freedom, and then you just said, kill her.
Mm-hmm.
It's very yeah, it's a heartbreaking, honestly, for a guy like, it's will breaking for a guy like Cody.
So yeah, so he goes AWOL. He makes the choice to he no longer wants to live with what he's doing, and Rampart's comment about how all of his clones, all of his friends, all the clones that he is with seem to disappear, almost as if to imply that Crosshair is the problem and that
I
it's
noticed
his
that too.
fault.
Well, because I think I don't know, like, we don't know yet what Crosshair said about Clone Force 99 when he got off the platform, right? We don't know what was said there. We speculated last episode that, well, he probably said something that they were still alive, but Rampart probably already put in the report saying, "Oh, Tarkin, they're dead. Oh, Captain, my Captain, they're dead. Please believe me, please." But at the same time, like, maybe in Rampart's eyes, Crosshair might be a problem now because Clone Force 99 disappeared and he thought they were dead, and Crosshair didn't tell him anything different. And then Cody now AWOL. I don't know. If Rampart tries to turn on Crosshair, there are going to be real issues this season, and that would make me love Crosshair more than I do right now. So, yeah,
Crosshair or Rampart?
Crosshair. If
Okay.
Rampart tries to Crosshair,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to love Crosshair because I know some stuff's coming. If that's what happens, Crosshair's going to come hard, and it's going to be so great because
I
Crosshair's
feel
not going to
like,
go down.
well, at least not without a fight. And I could see that happening. I could see that being the way things go. And like we said last episode, his mind changing because of that. Because I would think at some point he would recognize that they don't actually value the loyalty, right? Rampart said that it shows your loyalty is commendable, right? Not appreciated or anything like that, but it's noteworthy, basically. And I think he's going to get to a point where he recognizes that what he's doing is not being recognized, um, whether that's through who he's being partnered with, or if he inevitably or eventually, excuse me, gets his own squad back during, in the future. I, yeah, the double message, the double side, right? It's that double edged sword with Cody on one side and Crosshair on the other, and it was it was so well done. It was a fantastic episode. Um, and if the rest of the season is anything like this, as far as kind of pacing or, kind of a slow and then and then a boom, slow kind of ebbs and flows. I'm really going to enjoy the rest of the season. So
Yeah. Well, let's move into the ratings. So,
yes.
um, what would you give the episode?
So I would have given it, and so I know the numbers, right? But I I I did look ahead just to kind of get to the user reviews, but so I would have probably given it a 9 to 9.5, so maybe a 9.2 or 9.3, just because the action's great. We get Cody, we get Crosshair, we get. I mean, the music's great. Again, everything about this episode was, in my opinion, excellent. So I would have given it probably like a 9.2 or a 9.3 for this episode. You?
Yeah, I think I'm a 9.5. This episode flew by, number one, which is just insane when you're talking about an episode on TV now. So, the pace was just so good. The action was good. The characters I loved. The development for the two main characters we saw, so Cody and Crosshair, the entire episode were just fantastic. Specifically Crosshair. I mean, you see him develop, even though he takes the shot that Cody was against taking. He took that shot, and you can still see at the end of the episode things are clicking, and you see him multiple times in that lonely between the light in his bunk, and then after Cody walks away from him, he's alone. Like, the guy's alone, and he's slowly going to be alone, even worse, because he's going to be one of the last clones standing on that side of the war. Yeah, seeing that development was huge this episode. So yeah, 9.5. The action was so good. Watching Crosshair do what Crosshair does and was built for, fantastic. And yeah, seeing Cody and then seeing the politics on both sides again. You got to see another separatist leader. We heard the line, Dooku was right in the end. I mean, the government that the government that was before, completely corrupt. Congratulations. Now it's worse. So, which, I mean, even the Jedi thought that Dooku was a political figure, like, after he left the Order, he was just a politician to them.
It's interesting that I didn't forget about the Dooku link, but the first two episodes were spent raiding his war chest, right?
Oh, so
And
that's three in a row.
painting him kind of, well, not painting him kind of, Echo says that he's evil and all this stuff. And then we get the complete opposite view, right? Because the Bad Batch is insulated from what the Empire's kind of doing, right? They interact with it, but they're kind of insulated. Whereas Crosshair, Cody, and the others are in it. And so you get the opposite side of the coin in this episode. So I feel like they could have released 3 episodes in the first week, and they would have made total sense because of the Dooku tie, the Dooku relationship.
I'm kind of mad I didn't make that statement, 30 minutes ago at this point, because I haven't seen much talk about the Dooku connection for the first 3 episodes. Like, yeah, just haven't made that connection yet. I personally didn't until just now, and I made the comment about Dooku, but I didn't make the connection that, oh wait, that's right, they were raiding his war chest, and now the separatists who completely followed Dooku were right about the Empire and the Republic in general at first, and now their time's coming to an end.
Yeah, they're being eradicated. And you said Dooku, and I had that light bulb pop off in my head. So I had
I should say his name every episode just to see what happens.
we could probably find a connection. It's the 6 ways of separation, 6 degrees of separation with Count Dooku.
Who's
So
who's been in a movie with Christopher Lee? No, I'm just kidding.
right, exactly. So the episode itself, so far according to IMDb, has an 8.9 rating.
That's one of the
That's with,
highest the show's ever had.
yeah, I think outside of Aftermath and the episode with Rex, which was Battle Scars, I think last season.
Yeah, I feel like that.
That
What was it? Episode 1 was Aftermath, right?
Yep, yep. And then
Yeah,
Battle Scars
one.
was, I think, 7 or 8, which is when they get the um, when they recognize that they've got the chips in their head and
Yeah,
they're on the Venator and being
and
chased
Wrecker
down.
goes crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
a good one. So, what else was high ranking episodes last? I guess probably after those two is the final two, right? The final
Yeah. So
two are probably.
just to recap, season one, Aftermath was 8.9, Battle Scars was 8.4, Reunion was 8.8, and then Return to Camino was 8.9. War Mantle actually was 8.4, and then Camino Lost was 8.1. Everything else was actually, sorry, Bounty Lost with Cad Bane was 8.2. So it is currently tied. It being the Solitary Clone is currently tied with the highest rated from season one
Oh,
so far.
I mean, it was like I said, it was a great episode. It's crazy because from previous points of view, if this was the Boba Fett show, I'd be like, why didn't I get Boba Fett? Like, I want more Boba, more Boba. But in this case, it fits the show still. It is still a member of the Bad Batch, just apart from it. And it gives us so much development and action. It won. It won. So
Yeah, it's excellent, and the user reviews kind of echo this. So last week we had a bunch of substandard reviews, right? Talking
I
about
can't even wait.
right, but this week, of the 9 that exist so far for IMDb, the lowest rating is a 9. So there's one 9 out of 10, and then the other 8 are 10 out of 10s. So you get Peak Batch is one comment. Everything without the Bad Batch is ironically better is another comment, which is funny. Taking
That
the
has to be
shot.
the Omega guy. That has to be the Omega person.
No, but it is the guy who complained on the first couple. So it's the same username. You've got taking the shot, and the guy goes, or the person goes, yeah. So the staircase scene alone gets 9 stars, because it was just that.
I mean, that's
good.
fair. They work straight up that's like a John Wick like moment, like you're just between him and Cody just going up the stairs. Absolutely.
You've got experience the magic of Clone Wars, the magic of perfection, which again, I mean, it did take you back to. It again felt peak Clone Wars.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was your clones versus your clankers. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's boiled down to, and this is coming from someone who loved Andor for what it was, right? Trust me, I still love me some bang bang shoot 'em ups. So,
well, not just that, but in this case, you got the politics of Andor on top of it. I mean, literally layered in, and at the same timeline. Maybe a little earlier than Andor happened, but you're in the same time frame, like the Galactic Empire is trying to take over more stuff. Why? Because stuff. I want to own more stuff. No, I mean that's what it is. Like, I just want to own more resources. Like, why do you do this? Oh, I want to own that. Why? Because I want it. That's it. And that's just the way the Empire works. And you see that in Andor, and we saw that on Ferrix when we were going through. Why are you on Ferrix? Why not? The answer is why not? Why wouldn't we be here? So it's just very interesting that we're seeing the exact same politics play out in the animation now as we were in live action. And I personally love it because I'm a nerd and I love that politic everything. Like, sign me up. Like, everyone's like, oh, the prequels are so boring because, they went into politics and all this. Cool. Awesome. Bring it back. Bring more of it back. Because you know what? All those guys that were complaining about the prequels and politics and blah, 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 blah. Well, now we're 20 years older and we want to talk about politics and all that stuff because it's fun.
Well,
So,
that's what you would do as an adult, right? You run out of things to chat about, so you talk politics. Uh,
yeah. Yeah. Until someone gets kicked in the mouth. I'm just kidding. Um,
yeah, until someone throws the cranberry sauce in the rolls at grandma because,
That's the worst, isn't it? That's absolute worst. No,
so.
but I mean that's really what it comes down to, and this episode was so great for so many reasons, but ultimately,
Mhm.
like, the way it made the clones. First of all, it made Crosshair seem like the outcast, right?
Yep.
But as the entire episode progressed, it turned into Cody being the outcast, and the rest of the clones along with him being the outcast. Um, yeah, it's just really great episode. Loved it.
Yeah,
Can't
it
wait for
was.
more.
So next week's episode is it's faster, I believe was the. We went over that last week, I know, but
I know. We think it's gonna be Fett.
yeah, it'll be
This is the
interesting
beginning of
because
the Fett, right?
the question is, does the Empire actually care enough about uh, AWOL clones to send a bounty hunter after them? Which maybe that could be that entrance, right? So you got faster and Tomb Tribe, the clone conspiracy, right? So I know we went over that last week, but so faster, more intense. I don't know how it gets more intense than this episode. So uh, it'll be interesting. I'm not even going to try and guess what's going to happen. I'm just going to wait and enjoy it.
I mean, I didn't give it to you before, but like, yeah, I mean, the Empire sending a bounty hunter after AWOL clones, that's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
And do they care? I know one guy that does.
Who?
He's right there. He's right there.
Rampart.
Rampart
Or
cares.
is that Rampart? Yeah, it's Rampart.
That's Rampart, and that's Crosshair right next to him, but that's Rampart.
For those listening, he's pointing to his shelf of toys. So
Oh yeah, very good. Yeah, there are toys on the shelf now. So yeah, Rampart cares, and he wants to prove a point because he wants to bring him back. Dead.
I feel like Rampart's going to be a lot like Krennic, right? Where he's trying to position himself, right? And he's going to choke on his aspirations, and it's going to be his downfall.
Choke on your aspirations. Yeah, he walks into Vader Castle. Tarkin is just being mean, and I'm trying to do. Yeah, choke him out, Vader. Just choke him out. You know what's really crazy is this is gonna sound really bad, but at first I didn't know where we were. Right, it didn't tell us what planet we were on. I'm like, what if that was the base of Vader's castle, and the innards just there? Like, how would we? It kind of looked like lava briefly. Was Vader's castle there before Vader built it? I don't know.
Well, what are they mining? Is that like a spice planet or?
Yeah, so I'm not sure, and I didn't look into the planet details because I think that's the first time we've been there.
I think so too.
So, but like looking at them, they're definitely a working people, and that castle was so well made. Like, one way in, like the bridge took you up to like almost not the highest point, but the midway point of the castle. I mean, and that's the only way into it. So very well defended, unless you have Crosshair on the other team. So
yeah, it's kind of an uneven fight at that point.
And what I did love to see was the tactical droid still alive, like at least one again. Just genius combat tactical droids. I mean, just they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And Crosshair identified it immediately. He was like, they must have this because this is way too complicated for just Matthew Wood droids running around saying, Oh my gosh, that doesn't look good.
Roger, Roger.
Roger, Roger. It was cool to see like hear his voice again as a droid, like coming through, and the droids just they add that fun comedy point of Star
Yes.
Wars where
Hmm.
it's still a kid. I mean, it really is still for kids, even though we're killing a lot of droids that episode. So and killed a human
And clones.
cold
And clones.
in cold blood, but
Hmm.
whatever.
Yep.
We didn't know that. We didn't know those clones though. It's okay.
They had names. One was Nova, and one was
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't remember the other name.
Either one, they died.
It makes me a
So
terrible person. So,
yeah, they don't
um,
have names. That's like I said. CC 2224.
mm-hmm. 2, 2, 2, 4. Cody. So,
And he doesn't and that's the other thing. You mentioned that, but I didn't really think about it at the time because I just like, oh, it's coming over the PA system. But
mhm.
yeah, he didn't say Crosshair, get up to
No,
the office. It was CC 9904,
0, 4.
which is just insane because like he knows Crosshair. He knows him.
Mm-hmm.
He's called him that before. But to him, his troopers are literally numbers. You're either a CC or you're a TK. And either way, I don't care about you.
Exactly.
Rampart's
And
the
that's
best, worst guy ever.
well, he's the personification of the Empire, right? The Empire doesn't care, and that's really the end of it. I mean, that's the bottom line: is the Empire doesn't care, which we all know. That's not news, right? But he's the perfect. Him and Groton are the perfect personification of the Empire, and especially in the early days where they are just assimilating planets. They are taking what they want. They're taking the resources. It doesn't matter. They will get what they want.
I just love Groton walking right in. I'm the governor here. No. No, you're not.
So, I don't
Oh,
have anything
man.
else to say about this episode. You?
No, it was honestly just great episode. Loved it. It was weird not having the rest of the squad in the show for an episode. But seeing Crosshair do work, fantastic. Seeing Rampart, Cody coming back in the fold. Excited to see him. I'm gonna guess we're gonna see him again with Rex later in the season because, I mean, why introduce him for just one episode? So, pretty stoked for all of that. And we already know Rex is behind the scenes working with clones that are defecting. So, super excited about that prospect. And then, yeah, looking forward to the next episode. Hopefully, we get some Fett action.
Yeah, that'll be cool. So, yeah. So with that, we're gonna bring this episode to a close. I want to thank everybody for listening or watching. If you're on the YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching. Follow the cast if you aren't already. We really do appreciate it. Be sure to check the description or the show notes for links to our social media pages, as well as a website where you can find additional content for content beyond the Star Wars universe. Be sure to check out our friends at the Galactic Dads podcast. They talk Marvel, DC, and a bunch of other stuff, all while enjoying their beers of the week. So, with that, we're going to make our jump to hyperspace. So, for Jedi John, I'm Obi Sean, and until next time,
May the Force be with you.
Force diver.